For years, vaping has been sold as the cleaner, safer alternative to smoking, a way to satisfy nicotine cravings without the tar and toxins that comes with burning tobacco. But a new study from the University of Georgia suggests that this so-called safe alternative may be quietly altering your body's metabolism and raising the risk of diabetes. Hi, my name is Soumya Pillai and welcome to another episode of Pure Science. For this study, researchers analyzed data from over 1.2 million adults across the United States, drawn from the CDC's Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, which is one of the largest ongoing health surveys in the world. They looked closely at who vaped, who smoked, who did both, and whether those individuals had ever been diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes. After controlling for age, sex, income, ethnicity, and other health behaviors, a troubling pattern emerged. People who used only e-cigarettes, meaning they did not smoke traditional cigarettes at all, were 7% more likely to report prediabetes compared to non-users. Now, come to think of it, that's a modest but statistically significant increase. For smokers, the risk was 15% higher, and for dual users who both smoked and vaped, the number shot up dramatically to nearly 28% higher odds of prediabetes and about 7 to 9% higher odds of being diagnosed with full blown diabetes. Now, these percentages may sound small in isolation, but across a population of millions, they translate into a major public health impact. What's more, the risk wasn't confined to any one demographic. It cut across age, race, and income levels, though some groups were more vulnerable than the others. Among Hispanic, Black, and Asian participants, the link between vaping or smoking and prediabetes was stronger than in white participants. People with higher body mass index, meaning those who were overweight or obese, saw the risk compound. The nicotine exposure appeared to amplify the metabolic strain that already comes with excess weight. And people in lower income brackets showed higher rates of prediabetes and diabetes overall, suggesting that socioeconomic stress, limited healthcare access, and lifestyle factors might be intensifying the damage. But what's actually happening inside the body to cause this? The researchers point to several possible biological mechanisms. Nicotine itself, whether inhaled through smoke or vapor, can interfere with insulin sensitivity, making cells less responsive to the hormone that helps control blood sugar. It also stimulates the release of stress hormones like cortisol and epinephrine, both of which raise glucose levels in the blood. E-cigarette vapor contain ultrafine particles and reactive chemicals that trigger inflammation and oxidative stress, a process known to damage the lining of blood vessels and impair how the pancreas secretes insulin. Over time, this constant low-level stress on the body can tip someone from normal blood sugar regulation into prediabetes. Interestingly, the study also found some behavioral offsets. Regular physical activity appeared to reduce the risk among smokers partially, roughly an 8% drop for those who exercised consistently. But that benefit didn't completely erase the impact of nicotine exposure. Even active individuals who vaped or smoked were still more likely to show signs of metabolic dysfunction than those who avoided nicotine altogether. One of the most important takeaways from this research is how dual use, vaping and smoking together, compounds harm rather than replacing it. Many smokers who take up vaping do so believing they are cutting down on health risks. But this study suggests the opposite. Instead of substituting one for the other, using both may be magnifying the body's stress response. The researchers described dual users as the highest risk metabolic group, experiencing elevated risk not only for diabetes but also for related cardiovascular conditions. There is also a social pattern here that echoes the broader health disparities we already see in chronic diseases. Lower income groups, racial minorities, and people with obesity, all of whom face higher baseline risk of diabetes, are also more likely to be targeted by aggressive marketing from tobacco and vaping companies. The study doesn't just expose a biological connection, but also highlights how social and economic inequality intertwine with addiction and chronic disease. Of course, it's worth noting that this was an observational study, and the researchers are careful not to claim that vaping causes diabetes directly. The associations are strong but don't prove causation. Some of the effects could come from unmeasured lifestyle factors such as diet or stress. Still, when such a large database reveals consistent patterns even after adjusting for major variables, it is a signal worth paying attention to. The team calls for more longitudinal and mechanistic studies to pinpoint exactly how nicotine and aerosolized chemicals disrupt glucose metabolism. Ultimately, this research adds another layer to our understanding of e cigarettes. While they may reduce exposure to the carcinogens in tobacco smoke, they are not metabolically neutral. They don't just affect your lungs, they may be changing how your body handles sugar, how your pancreas functions, and how your metabolism responds to stress. So, when we talk about vaping as less harmful, the question becomes less harmful to what? Perhaps to lungs, but not necessarily to the body's long term metabolic health. And for millions who already hover on the edge of prediabetes, that difference could be the tipping point. That was all from me this week. I am Soumya Pillai, and you were watching Pure Science.